Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
William Conrad starring as Marshal Matt Dillon in an episode of Gunsmoke. This episode goes back to September 20th, 1954.
Gunsmoke. Around Dodge City and in the territory on West, there's just one way to handle the killers and the spoilers, and that's with a U.S. Marshal and the smell of gun smoke. Gunsmoke, starring William Conrad. The transcribed story of the violence that moved west with young America, and the story of a man who moved with it.
I'm that man, Matt-Dillon, United States Marshal. The first man they look for and the last they want to meet. It's a chancy job, and it makes a man watchful and a little lonely.
Mr. Dillon.
Hello, Chester.
I sure am glad you're back.
I've only been gone a couple of hours.
Well, that's all it takes, a couple of hours. Onie Becker's been shot.
Huh? Onie Becker?
You know him, that little sodbuster lives out near Clear Spring.
Oh, yeah.
He's up at Doc's. You want to see him?
Yeah. Well, tell me about it, Chester.
Well, sir, all I know is he was gambling this morning over at the Texas Trail. He left there a little afternoon, and then some fellas found him laying in an alley with a bullet in him.
Well, can he talk?
No, sir. He's been unconscious the whole time. But Doc's working on him in here. Oh, hello, Matt.
How is he, Doc?
He's dead, Matt. About 10 minutes ago.
Oh. Onie Becker. Now, who'd have shot a harmless little man like that?
Harmless is right. He didn't even have a pocket knife on him. And besides, he was shot in the back.
Maybe it was an accident of some kind.
Accident? Chester, I once tried to save a man who'd pulled a scythe across the back of his neck by accident. Yes, and I remember a boy who fell between the slats of a fence and got hung. But I never heard of a man shooting himself in the back by accident.
Well, I meant maybe somebody else done it.
Of course somebody else did it.
I know that. I meant by mistake.
Oh, Chester. Chester, are you sure you've been keeping your hat on when you're walking around in the sun?
Oh, you're just mad because Onie Becker died on you.
There was
Doc.
nothing I could do to save him. He bled to death. Inside.
Oh, you did what you could, Doc.
Yes, well, I think I did.
Did, Onie say anything? Anything at all?
No, Matt, he never even opened his eyes.
Well, he was shot in the back, so it wasn't anybody he was fighting with.
Well, I don't know, Mr. Dillon. Onie was fighting, or at least having an argument over a card this morning with that gambler, what's his name, Al Clovis, over at the Texas Trail.
He was. Well, why didn't you say so before, Chester?
Well,
I never heard of this Al Clovis.
Oh, he's only been here about a week, Doc. Chester, you wait here. I'm going over the Texas Trail.
Oh, is that you?
Oh, hello, Marshal.
Hello, John.
Looking for somebody, Matt?
Oh, hiya, Kitty. Is Al Clovis here?
I was wondering when you'd get around to him.
What do you mean?
And Al Clovis threatened him this noon just before Onie went out and got shot. Almost seemed like Al was trying to start a fight with him, Matt.
Where was Clovis when it happened, Kitty?
He wasn't in here.
Yeah. Kitty, you know Al Clovis better than I do. Would you say he's the kind of a man who would murder Onie Becker because of an argument over cards, shoot him in the back?
I don't know him that well, Matt.
Yeah, well, maybe he had another reason to kill him. If he did it.
Shooting little Onie Becker's like shooting a pet deer. Makes about as much sense.
Yeah. But usually when a man gets murdered, there's a reason of some kind for it.
You mean it'd take more than plain anger to follow a man down an alley and shoot him in the back?
Well, ordinarily it would.
Al Clovis must have wanted Onie dead for some special reason, Matt. Maybe Onie had something on him.
Yeah, maybe.
He was in here a while ago, but he left.
Well, I'll find him.
He might be at the depot, Matt.
Huh? At the depot?
He said something about going to St. Louis. Now everything's been taken care of here. I didn't know what he meant at the time, but he said it loud, and I know the train leaves at 4:30.
4:30? That's about that now, isn't it?
Well, maybe he said it just to throw you off his trail.
Well, I'll find out. I'll see you later, Kitty.
Better hurry, Matt.
September 20th, 1954, Gunsmoke on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
You know, it's true. Difficult times have a way of focusing us. We have to think about what matters most when it comes to our spending, our health care. No doubt. This is why so many people are joining MediShare right now. MediShare is a trusted way to save up to 50% on your monthly health care costs. More than 400,000 people have already made the switch. It's pretty obvious why, too, especially now during this challenging season with healthcare costs and out-of-pocket expenses going up. MediShare can save you a lot of money. The typical family saves $500 a month. And MediShare is a Christian healthcare sharing ministry that's worked beautifully for 29 years. There are different options to choose from to fit your budget. I'll give you the number here in a second, and if you call, you can get a price within 2 minutes. Maybe now is the perfect time to make the switch and start saving. Here you go. Call 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, more of Gunsmoke, September 20th, 1954.
One more car to go, Mr. Dillon. If Al Clovis ain't in there, he ain't on this train.
Well, he might have fooled us after all, Chester.
Yes, sir. He could be riding west while we're heading east. We'll never find him if he is.
Well, let's take a look into this car before we walk in, huh?
Yes, sir. Well, I sure don't see him. Not in there, I don't.
Yeah. Unless that's him down there lying back with his hat pulled over his face.
It could be.
Well, it better be. Now, come on.
Okay, sir.
Hey, wake up, mister. Come on, wake up.
Quit bothering me. What do you want here? Marshal Dillon. What are you doing here?
Keep your hands on your knees, Clovis. Tight.
Well, what's this all about, Marshal?
You carrying a gun?
Why should I carry a gun?
Stand up, Clovis. Come on, stand up.
Okay. What for?
All right, search him, Chester.
Yes, sir.
Now, keep to one side of him, out of my way.
Don't you try nothing, Clovis.
Well, why should I? I told you I wasn't armed.
No, ain't nothing on him.
All right. Okay, you can sit down, Clovis.
I don't understand this, Marshal. What are you looking for?
I'm looking for the man who murdered Onie Becker this afternoon.
You mean you followed me and got on this train because you thought I killed Onie?
It's about 100 miles to Great Bend, Clovis. We'll get off there and take tomorrow's train back to Dodge.
Oh, you're making a big mistake, Marshal. While you were riding up and down on this railroad, whoever did kill Onie Becker's leaving the country for good. You'll never catch him now.
What you're trying to say is that you don't admit killing him yourself, isn't it?
I'm not a murderer, Marshal.
No, we'll see.
Oh, I know what you're thinking. You heard Onie and I had a little argument this morning.
Didn't you?
Sure. That doesn't prove anything. I argue with lots of men.
You threatened to kill him.
That was just to scare him. He was being kind of stubborn about it all. You know what those farmers are like. And I suppose it takes a stubborn man to grow potatoes.
Well, if you're so innocent, why did you announce everything had been taken care of and that you were going to St. Louis?
Did I say that, Marshal?
You know, Clovis, I can always kick you in the head and take you back to Dodge on a sack. Now, why did you run?
I'm not running. There's no reason why I should. That's the truth, Marshal.
Where were you when Onie Becker was killed?
I was wondering when you'd ask me that.
I suppose you got an alibi.
You know Mr. Botkin, don't you, Marshal?
I ought to. Botkin's run the Dodge Bank ever since it was an old whiskey barrel.
Well, I was with him in his office at the bank, Marshal. I suppose you'll take his word for it.
Yeah, sure I will.
Well, we were discussing the money I placed in the bank when I arrived in Dodge a week ago. $5,000, Marshal. Mr. Botkin is going to transfer it to St. Louis for me.
Chester.
Yes, sir?
Go up and tell the engineer to stop the train at Jane's Crossing.
Stop the train?
There's a ranch about a mile from there where we can borrow some horses.
Well, I thought you said we were spending the night at Great Bend, Marshal.
I changed my mind, Clovis. Your story doesn't make much sense, and I want to get back to Dodge and find out why.
It must be about midnight.
Sure is, and I'm tired. Haven't been on a horse in years.
Oh, well, why didn't you say so, Clovis? We'd have borrowed a wagon for you.
Never mind, Chester. Now, you take him on down to the jail and lock him up, huh? I'm going to stop here at Mr. Botkin's house. His light's still on.
Want me to go in with you, Marshal?
I'll let you know what he has to say, Clovis. I'll be along a little while, Chester.
All right, sir.
Where is it?
Matt-Dillon, Mr. Botkin.
Oh. Well, Marshal, come in. Come in.
I wouldn't have bothered you this late, Mr. Botkin, but I saw your light was on, and I figured you were still up.
Up? Of course I'm up. How could I sleep tonight?
Why? What's wrong?
Where have you been, Marshal? The whole town of Dodge has been looking for you. Fine time for you to be up riding off somewhere, I must say.
Well, tell me what happened.
What happened? Don't you know even yet? What are you doing here at my house?
Well, if you'll calm down, I'll tell you.
You'll tell me? I'd better tell you, Marshal. Well, you're out gallivanting around on the prairie somewheres. My bank was held up.
What?
About 5 o'clock, just as we were closing. 3 men that got away with over $25,000. Every cent of cash I had in that vault, Marshal.
Oh, didn't anybody try to follow him?
No, they tied me and them cashiers up so tight they were miles out of town before we could get loose. A few men saw him leave, but they were afraid to do anything about it. And, of course, the United States Marshal, he wasn't even in town.
Did you get a look at him?
No, they were masked. Nobody I found can even identify their horses. They're just gone, Marshal, with $25,000.
Look, Mr. Botkin, I came here to ask you a question. It might have something to do with your bank being robbed.
Oh? Well, what is it?
Was Al Clovis with you in your office about noon today?
Clovis? Yes, he was for a couple of hours. Why?
He had some money on deposit?
Yeah, that $5,000 cash. Of course, that's gone, too. That's part of the money they took. I'm afraid Clovis is broke now, along with me and a lot of other people.
Well, maybe he isn't as broke as you think.
Oh, he's broke. Unless you can get that money back, Marshal.
Look, I got an idea. I might find it for you, Mr. Botkin. And it won't take very long, either.
Well, I got Clovis all locked up, Mr. Dillon. He won't be taking no more trains for a while.
Good.
What'd you find out from Mr. Botkin?
And I'll tell you and Clovis at the same time, Chester.
Well, he's right in the first cell.
Marshal. Come to turn me loose?
Mr. Bodkin says your alibi is good, Clovis.
If you'd have believed me in the first place, you'd have saved us all a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Well, let me out. I don't want to spend the night here.
You better get used to it, Clovis. You're going to be spending a lot of nights in here.
What?
At least a month or two of them.
No. They can't keep me here, Marshal. It's illegal.
Is it?
Of course it is.
Well, maybe you know more about the law than I do, Clovis, but I run this jail, and you're going to stay here a long time. And what's more, I'm going to tell the whole town where you are. Come on, Chester.
Marshal, I demand to be released at once. Now come back here. It'll cost you your job if you keep me here.
Shut the door, Chester.
Marshal, you can't do it. Marshal!
You really gonna keep him locked up, Mr. Dillon?
I am.
But he ain't done nothing. I mean, if Mr. Botkin said he was with him...
Well, Clovis didn't kill Onie Becker, if that's what you mean.
Well, then why don't you turn him loose?
Chester, the bank was robbed of $25,000 today.
It was?
Yeah, just after we got on the train. Looks to me like Onie Becker was murdered just to get me to follow Al Clovis out of town.
Well...
We'll find out in a few minutes. I don't think Clovis can stand the idea of sitting in jail while his partners ride off with all that money.
You mean he was supposed to get out of here and meet them as soon as his alibi was made good, huh?
That's the only way it makes sense to me.
Marshal! Marshal Dillon!
Well, it didn't take as long as I thought. Come on.
Marshal, I got to talk to you.
All right, go ahead.
You really going to keep me in jail here? You mean that?
That's all you wanted? Don't bother me again.
No, don't go, Marshal.
What do you want, then? It's late, Clovis. I want to get to bed.
Marshal, I'll make you a deal.
About what?
If I help you get back whatever was stolen from the bank today, can I keep my $5,000 out of it?
How did you know the bank was robbed, Clovis?
You're smart, Marshal. I can tell you got this all figured, holding me in jail and all. But I'm smart, too.
Are you?
Smart enough to know you need me as much as I need you. You'll never find those men without me, Marshal. But I can take you to where they are, and I'll identify them for you.
Why?
All I want out of it is my $5,000. Now, that's mine. You can do what you like with the rest.
The court will have to decide about your $5,000, not me.
Well, you think there's a chance I might get it?
Well, I don't know. But you're a gambler, aren't you?
It'll help my showing you where they are, won't it?
Yeah, it'll help.
Okay. I'm supposed to meet them tonight or early tomorrow, Marshal. They won't wait longer than that.
All right, who are they, Clovis?
They're not friends of mine, Marshal. I never saw them before 2 weeks ago in St. Louis. And they're all hiding behind summer names.
How far's away the meeting place?
Hey, it's an old cabin, about 20 miles from here.
They there now?
Nobody stopped them here, did they?
No, thanks to you.
But I'm helping you now, Marshal.
If I find your partners, you are. Chester, go get our horses.
We going out there tonight, Mr. Dillon?
Would you rather try it in broad daylight, Chester?
No, sir.
You sure you can find this cabin, Clovis?
I made the ride out here one night just to be sure.
I swear I can't hardly see nothing. I wish that moon wasn't all scudded up with clouds.
Chester, you still don't understand that if you can see them, they can see you.
That's right. Oh, you're right, Mr. Dillon. It sure looks like rain, though.
We're almost there.
Good.
Marshal.
Yeah.
How are you going to take them? 3 men.
What's the matter, Clovis? You getting scared?
You know what they'll do to me if you don't take them, Marshal.
Like I said, you're a gambler, aren't you?
Look, why don't you give me a gun? I'll help you.
We'll manage.
You can trust me, Marshal. I'm on your side now.
Clovis, I wouldn't trust a man like you if you were in church, praying.
Wait. Somewhere over there.
Yeah. There it is. A little clump of elder. The cabin's in there, eh? You see the light?
Yeah. Are you sure that's it?
Of course I am.
Okay, let's get out. Chester, I'm going to go up on foot and have a look. You stay here with Clovis.
Okay, sir.
What if they hear him and come out and shoot him?
Mr. Dillon ain't exactly green at this game, Clovis.
They wouldn't kill me. They'd burn me or something first.
Can't blame 'em much.
Wish I'd stayed in jail. Wished I'd let him keep the money. Something's sure to go wrong here. Unless maybe I outsmart him.
You ain't gonna outsmart nobody, Clovis, so forget about it.
Okay.
I declare I never seen a darker night than this is.
No. Neither did I.
September 20th, 1954, Gunsmoke on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The conclusion, along with more yours truly, Johnny Dollar, follows these messages.
Listen up, guys. Are you experiencing any of the following? Fatigue, less drive, poor performance? If so, you may be one of the nearly 30 million men in the U.S. today dealing with ED. But did you know you don't have to pay hundreds for a prescription anymore? And you don't have to deal with the hassle of seeing the doctor or the embarrassment of going to the pharmacy for a certain pill. Now, with one free call, you can find out how Herbal Virility Max can help you feel like a man again. For over a decade, Herbal Virility Max has helped guys just like you put a smile back on their face with improved performance and drive. Call today and ask about our buy one, get one free offer.
800-772-6113. 800-772-6113. 800-772-6113. That's 800-772-6113.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of Gunsmoke, September 20th, 1954.
Get off.
Get off.
What's the matter?
It's my horse. He's standing on my foot.
We'll push him off.
I can't. Now help me, Chester.
No, for pity's sake.
Come on. Ow.
Move him. That's all you gotta do.
Back.
Here, what are you doing? Clovis?
I got your gun, Chester. Now shut up. Don't move.
But you give
Shut
me
up,
that
I said.
gun.
That's better.
Hey, what's that?
Thunder, Clovis. You'll be hearing a different kind when Mr. Dillon gets back here.
He's not coming back here. We're going to him. And if he shoots anybody, it'll be you, because you're going to be right in front of me. Like this. All right. Start walking, Chester. Go on. That's far enough. Stop here. We'll pick up the marshal now and go on to the cabin. I'll call him and tell him how you're fixed. Go on, call him.
Mr. Dillon? Mr. Dillon? He ain't nowhere around
Yes,
here.
he is. Tell him. Go on.
Clovis got my gun, Mr. Dillon.
Tell him if he doesn't walk over here with his hands up, I'll shoot you.
He's going to take us both to the cabin, Mr. Dillon. He says he'll shoot me.
You heard him, Marshal. I'll kill him, sure, if you try anything.
He ain't close enough. I tell you, he'd probably clear up there at the cabin.
Okay, start walking, Chester. Just straight ahead. Once I get you inside the cabin, he'll have to give up. Unless he wants you dead.
You hurt, Chester?
No, sir. His gun just went off when you hit him.
All right, get the gun, quick. Come on.
I got it, Mr. Dillon.
All right, let's get up to that cabin. They know we're out here now.
Oh, they're getting away, Mr. Dillon. They're gone.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I just don't know what to say.
Then don't say anything. Let's try to find our horses. We'll get Clovis later.
We'll never find them horses in the dark this way.
Rain. Well, that's it. There won't be a track left now. Well, there go 3 killers and $25,000.
Oh, Mr. Dillon, I just feel awful about this.
How'd he get your gun away from you anyway?
Well, see, he said his horse was standing on his foot, so
So you walked up and let him pull your gun right out of the holster, huh?
Yes, sir, that's about the way it happened. Mr. Dillon, you should have let him take me into that cabin. They'd have killed me, but you could have caught them. They wouldn't have got away like they did.
Yeah, I know. I was close enough to hear what Clovis said.
Well, then why'd you save me? Everything would have been okay.
Oh, yeah. Everything would have been okay. Oh, most everything, Chester. Well, let's just don't stand here in the rain talking about it. Come on.
My, what a terrible mess.
It was my choice, Chester. Not yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Dillon. Mr. Dillon? Would you like a whorehound drop?
Gunsmoke, produced and directed by Norman Macdonald, stars William Conrad as Matt Dillon, U.S. Marshal. Tonight's story was specially written for Gunsmoke by John Meston, with music composed and conducted by Rex Corey. Featured in the cast were John Daner and Lawrence Dobkin. Harley Bear is Chester, Howard McNear is Doc, and Georgia Ellis is Kitty. Join us again next week as Matt Dillon, U.S. Marshal, fights to bring law and order out of the wild violence of the West in Gunsmoke.
A whorehound drop will fix anything. September 20th, 1954, Gunsmoke on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, Part 4, the 5-part yours truly Johnny Dollar story, The Imperfect Alibi Matter. This episode originally broadcast September 20th, 1956.
From Hollywood, it's time now for...
Johnny Dollar.
Joe Restelli at Homicide returning your call, Johnny.
I've uncovered a couple of items on the Harvey Stone killing, Joe.
Good, let's have 'em.
Remember Alvin Gentry?
The crank who made the fake confession in my office yesterday? Yeah, what about him?
Looks like he's not a psycho after all.
What do you mean?
I just found out he's a friend of Helen Barrett's.
Well, what do you know? Could be he was doing it to shield her. That sure doesn't look good for her, Johnny.
Yeah, I gotta admit my hunch about her innocence just took a nosedive. I also learned that Harvey's secretary, Martha Winters, used to be his girlfriend.
Yeah, I'm up to date on that one. Matter of fact, Martha's in my office right now.
Oh?
Says she wants to make a statement. You want to hear it?
You bet I do.
Tonight and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Home Office, Northeast Indemnity Associates, Hartford, Connecticut. Assignment, The Imperfect Alibi Matter, location New York City. Expense account continued. Item 10, $1.40 cab from my hotel to police headquarters. Martha Winters, secretary to the murdered man, Harvey Stone, was in Lieutenant Joe Restelli's office. She was a blonde, and again I had to admire the dead man's taste. He could really pick them.
Miss Winters, would you mind telling Mr. Dollar here what you've just told me?
No, not at all, Lieutenant. You see, Mr. Dollar, I have a small apartment in the same building as Mr. Stone's apartment.
On East 57th?
Yes. Harvey, that is Mr. Stone, transacted most of the business at his apartment rather than the office when he was in town. That's mainly why he kept the apartment. And we felt it would be more convenient for me to be nearby.
I see.
Well, the night before last...
The night of the murder.
Yes. I'd been out to a show. I got home about 11:30.
Go on.
I saw Helen Barrett walking toward Mr. Stone's apartment.
What? You sure about the time?
Well, not right down to the second, of course, but I am positive it was within 5 minutes of 11:30.
I see. Well, why did you wait until this morning to tell us this?
Well,
Come on, let's have it, Miss Winters.
Well, naturally, no one likes to get mixed up in things like this. And I didn't want to make trouble for anybody. Helen Barrett always seemed like a nice person. But Mr. Stone was my employer and my friend. And after thinking it over, I could see what my duty was.
You say Harvey Stone was your friend. Was he anything more than that?
I don't think I know what you mean, Mr. Dollar.
I think you do. I understand that at one time you and Harvey were planning to be married.
That's true. But that's all in the past.
Oh?
Yes, we decided mutually that it was a mistake. We've been friends ever since, but nothing more than that.
I see. Well...
Heard enough, Johnny?
Yeah.
Okay, Miss Winters, that'll be all. Thanks for coming in. We'll get in touch with you again if we need any further information.
All right. Anytime, Lieutenant.
Well, Johnny, according to Martha Winters' statement, Helen Barrett was in Harvey's apartment at the approximate time of the murder. We know it was somewhere between 11:30 and midnight.
Helen said she left Harvey's apartment around 11 to go home and pack. They were going to elope. When he didn't come for her, she got worried. She went back to his apartment around midnight, found him dead.
But that story won't hold water if Martha's telling the truth.
Yeah, if.
You don't sound convinced.
Are you, Joe?
I don't know, Johnny. I don't know. It's a pretty nauseating shortage of facts in this case.
Nauseating's the word for it, all right.
No, I mean literally. When I get one like this, my stomach starts acting up.
Joe, what have we got in the way of facts?
Well, number one, Harvey Stone was shot in the forehead with a .38 Smith & Wesson sometime between 11:30 and midnight.
Yeah. And even that fact got twisted around yesterday by Alvin Gentry when he made what he called a confession. He said he shot Stone in the chest with a Colt .45 and threw the gun in the river.
Yeah. You told me you'd found out he was a friend of Helen's. His confession doesn't look good for her, believe me.
I know. But I can't seem to lose my hunch that she's innocent.
Look, Johnny, I don't blame you for trying. It's your job.
What do you mean?
Harvey Stone was insured for $150,000 by the company you represent.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, his father, E.J. Stone, and his young stepmother, Daphne, are the joint beneficiaries. Now, if one of them should turn out to be the murderer, your company wouldn't have to pay off.
Wait a minute, Joe. Wait a minute. I think you know me well enough to figure I'd a lot rather see that company pay through the nose than convict an innocent person.
Sure, but just about everything we've got points to Helen Barrett.
Just about, but not quite.
For instance?
For instance, Harvey's father, E.J. Stone. He thought Harvey was running the business into the ground. He didn't like it. He also didn't like the fact that Harvey and his stepmother were pretty friendly.
Yeah, a man in a wheelchair is liable to resent a lot of things.
Yeah, well, that's just the point. E.J. can get out of his wheelchair when he wants to. I saw him out of it yesterday.
Huh?
Sure. Then there's Daphne herself. She opposed the idea of Harvey marrying Helen. Said she wanted to protect the Stone name. But that sounds pretty fishy coming from somebody who used to be a chorus girl herself.
Did you ask her about that picture of her you spotted in Dutch Krieger's office?
Yeah. She said that was all in the past. But I wonder. Dutch got kicked out of a business deal by Harvey. He wouldn't forget that, and he's a tough cookie. And there still could be a connection between him and Daphne.
Here we go again. Could be.
Okay. So I guess what it all adds up to is just that I kind of got myself sold on Helen.
Sure, I've been sold on people, too. Sometimes it's ended up costing me. So now I just hold back and don't make up my mind one way or another.
All right.
It's turned out to be a pretty good idea, too. Why don't you try it, Johnny?
Expense account item 11, a double martini for me. Well, I thought over what Joe Rastelli had said. Sure, it was good advice not to get too sold on people, but it didn't help me much at the moment. I still couldn't believe Helen Barrett had killed Harvey Stone, but I had to admit that if she wasn't the killer, it left a lot of things unexplained. For one thing, Alvin Gentry's fake confession. It sure looked like he was trying to shield her. I checked and learned that he managed a supper club where Helen used to sing. I decided to have a talk with him. I found him at a corner table.
Yeah?
I'm Johnny Dollar. Gentry, we met in Lieutenant Rastelli's office.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to you.
What about?
About the Harvey Stone killing.
There's nothing to talk about.
I don't agree. I think there is.
I made my confession. You guys didn't believe me.
Well, now, that's because you got a few of the things wrong, Gentry. What interests me now is not your confession, but the reason you made it.
What do you mean?
Well, you said Harvey Stone had been making a play for your girl, a hat check girl, wasn't it? You said that's why you killed him.
So?
So, you said you didn't know Helen Barrett.
I don't.
But you're lying.
Look, Dollar.
We found out you're a friend of Helen's. You used to go with her, and you were waiting in her apartment the night of the murder when she left Harvey's and came home to pack. Well, how about it, Gentry?
Okay, so I do know Helen, but she didn't kill Stone.
How do you know?
She couldn't have. She's not that kind.
Oh, sure. You were waiting at her apartment that night. Why?
I wanted to see her.
What about?
She used to sing here. She drew good crowds. I wanted her back.
What kind of a mood was she in when she got to her apartment?
What do you mean?
Well, did she talk about Harvey Stone any? Did she seem mad or upset?
I don't remember.
Cut it out, Gentry. I want straight answers.
Well, I guess I had a little argument.
What about?
I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Helen didn't kill Stone. She was with me.
You mean for a few minutes at her apartment?
I mean longer than a few minutes. She was with me at the time of the killing.
Now, look, Gentry. I know you're trying to help Helen, but believe me, this isn't helping her. First, you make a phony confession, and now all of a sudden you're giving her an alibi.
Sure, it was stupid of me to make that confession.
You can say that again.
But I realized later it wasn't necessary. I realized that Helen had been with me at the time of the killing.
You're going to stick to that story?
Sure I am.
Under oath?
Under oath.
Perjury's a pretty serious thing, Gentry.
Perjury's pretty hard to prove, Dollar.
One thing seemed pretty clear. Alvin Gentry was apparently convinced that Helen had killed Harvey Stone. He was doing everything he could think of, even perjuring himself to shield her. And the more he scrambled, the worse he began to look for her. Then, too, there was the statement of Martha Winters, Harvey's secretary, that she'd seen Helen returning to his apartment at 11:30. That would put Helen back there during the time of the murder. I still wasn't completely convinced that Martha Winters was telling the truth, so I spent the rest of the afternoon checking on her to see what I could find out. And a couple of things I found out were pretty interesting. So interesting that I decided to try to run a little bluff on her.
Oh, Mr. Dollar.
Hello, Martha. I'd like to talk to you.
Well, I was just on my way out.
Well, this won't take long.
All right. Please come in.
Thanks.
Well?
It's about that statement you made to Lieutenant Rastelli this morning.
Oh? Well, I really haven't anything more to add to it, Mr. Dollar. Look, I'm sorry, but I have an engagement now.
Yeah. You told us this morning that you and Harvey Stone used to go together. But you called it off and were just friends after that.
Yes, that's right. Now, look, Mr. Dollar,
But that isn't the story I picked up at the office of the Stone Corporation a while ago, Martha.
The office? Now, what right have you to go snooping around that office?
Sorry, Martha, but snooping's my business. And you know, you pick up a lot of interesting information that way.
Well, if you're going to listen to office
For instance,
gossip...
I found out it was Harvey who called off the deal with you.
No.
And you've been carrying a torch for him ever since. There've been a couple of nasty scenes about it.
That's a lie.
Matter of fact, once or twice he'd almost made up his mind to can you, but each time he decided not to.
Lies, all of it.
Okay. We'll let that go for a minute. Now, about your statement this morning.
Mr. Dollar, I haven't time to stand here and repeat what I've already said.
That's where you're wrong, Martha. You've got time to hear this. You'll take time.
Well, what is it?
You said you saw Helen heading for Harvey's apartment at 11:30.
Yes, I did.
Where were you at the time?
Why, here?
In your apartment here? But your apartment's around the corner of the hall from Harvey's.
Well,
How could you have seen her from here?
Well, I didn't mean I was in my apartment. I was at the entrance, just coming in.
The front entrance, huh?
Yes.
But Helen came in the side entrance. You couldn't have seen her from the front.
Well, she's lying. Anyway, I hadn't reached the front entrance yet. I was outside.
Sorry, Martha. The doorman and the cop on the beat both would have seen Helen.
tell
You
you-
lied, didn't you?
No.
You didn't see her at all.
Well, it had to be Helen. She's the one who killed him. I know she did.
You lied, didn't you, Martha?
If it hadn't been for her...
If it weren't for her, maybe you'd be Mrs. Harvey Stone, huh?
I didn't mean that. I meant Harvey'd still be alive. I just didn't want her to get away with
You
it.
lied, Martha. You didn't see Helen at all.
Yes, I lied, Mr. Dillon. I lied.
Yeah, my bluff about the doorman, the cop on the beat, and Helen coming in the side entrance had paid off. Looking at Martha, I didn't exactly feel like giving 3 cheers about it. But one thing was clear, though. The Harvey Stone murder case had just busted wide open again.
Now, here's our star to tell you about the final episode of this week's story.
Tomorrow, the wind-up. A gambler stakes his life on his hand and loses. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, is transcribed in Hollywood. Written by Robert Reif, it is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. Be sure to join us tomorrow night, same time and station, for the next exciting episode of Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Roy Rowan speaking.
Part 4 of the 5-part Yours truly, Johnny Dollar story, as it was originally broadcast on September 20th, 1956, The Imperfect Alibi Matter. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, big thanks to our friend Ted over at RadioMemories.com, who's filled in a lot of our holes in our Yours Truly Johnny Dollar collection. He provided us this show, and he can provide shows to you at a reasonable cost on cassette, on CD, or on flash drive for your computer. Contact Ted at RadioMemories.com. Also, contact this station, thank them, and support the advertisers you hear here. It is their kindness and courtesy that allows us to be with you each and every time you roll around here on your favorite station. If you miss a day, you don't have to miss a single show. You can hear all of our shows on demand at my webpage, classicradio.stream. You can stream our shows on demand, listing there of podcast sites that our shows are available for download. You can learn about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can find our social media links there. And if you like what we do and like to help us acquire additional great classic radio collections, you can buy me a coffee. That buy me a coffee money goes to help us purchase additional classic radio collections. Thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.